If you've been thinking about getting serious with your money, like actually serious, now's the time. The Motley Fool is offering new members 50% off their iconic stock recommendation service, Stock Advisor. This is the same service that's crushed the market with recommendations that have returned 1,057% since inception, compared to the S&P 500's 180% over that same period. This isn't guesswork. The Motley Fool has a track record of finding companies before they become household names. So if you want to invest smarter and you like saving money while doing it, go to fool.com/listen to claim your 50% off discount off a 1-year term of Stock Advisor. Again, that's fool.com/listen. Returns of 1,057% are from the Motley Fool's product Stock Advisor and measured against S&P 500 returns of 180% as of July 10th, 2025. Past performance is not an indicator of future results. All investing involves a risk of loss. Individual investment results may vary.
Hey, this is Jason Kleberg from the Force 5 podcast, a show that forces a guest to come up with a movie-themed top 5 list topic, and then we reveal our picks on air. Top 5 heist films, top 5 tearjerkers, top 5 movie dogs. Every show you'll be asking yourself, what would be on my list? Guests include directors, screenwriters, actors, podcasters, musicians, authors, and even a professional wrestler. Subscribe to the Force 5 podcast, and you won't just be a listener, you'll be a list nerd. The Force 5 podcast, available wherever you're listening now.
Kulturecast. I'm Chris Stachiw.
And I'm Sean Liang.
And I'm Oscar Moreno.
And Oscar is one of the film staff writers for Culture Shocked, and he will be joining us today to talk about License to Kill from 1989. It is one of 2 Timothy Dalton James Bond films. It is his second and final one. And we also have an interview with Robert Davi, who played Franz Sanchez, the villain in the film. We'll play that here in a little bit. But before we get to talking about License to Kill, have you guys been watching anything this week?
Well, when it comes to theaters, the last movie I watched was Joy, and I liked it, but I was also a bit disappointed by it, considering that I'm a big fan of David O. Russell. I think he's been doing he's been on a pretty much golden streak since The Fighter, and he's been making The Fighter, Silver Linings Playbook, and American Hustle, which for me, they were all very good movies. And this one, I think that he got lost in the editing room, sort of. Like, this movie could have lost a few more, at some 10 minutes, it would have been a really good film. But as it is, it's okay. I liked it. And I thought it was very moving at times, and Jennifer Lawrence was excellent, but I thought it had everything to be better, and it wasn't. But still a good film. I understand the flag it has gotten. And another thing I watched, which actually I really liked, and was Dope. That was a very good film. I liked that one a lot. That one I would actually thoroughly recommend.
I feel like I've barely heard about that movie, but it sounds really cool.
Yeah, actually for Dope, I hadn't seen a trailer or anything. I just kept hearing people what's really good. You should check it out. You're gonna love it. And
yeah.
And for me, I think it was the first time in a while where I actually saw a film without watching a trailer or really knowing what it was about. I just went almost blind, and I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. It's very, very good.
Mm-hmm.
I think I might be the only person on the planet who doesn't like Jennifer Lawrence.
Probably.
No, I think a lot of people don't really like her.
Yeah,
because her acting style and just her, I guess, off-screen personality is just not. I don't know. Something about her just rubs me the wrong way.
She's one of those actresses that is almost just as better known as a personality as she is for her work.
Yeah, I don't know. I get that she's the Hollywood golden girl and that everybody on Reddit loves her, but something about her just rubs me the wrong way, and I'm not a huge fan. Yeah. So I actively don't watch films that have her in it. And that's the last 3 David O. Russell films.
That's right.
Jesus Christ. It's like Scorsese and DiCaprio all over again. So, I mean, it is, right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, what's funny is that, for example, in American Hustle, it was actually a pretty minor role. She didn't do that big in it. And for example, that movie, I didn't actually love her because I felt like, you know what, she looks too young for the role. But she gave the movie some of the funniest moments. I'm like torn when it comes to American Hustle, when it comes to that role. But I don't know, like I don't like her. I think she, like I don't like her either. I think she's good, but she's not necessarily like brilliant. Like I think the role she really impressed me with was in Winter's Bone. She was she was really good in that, and that was a really good movie too.
Well, that was kind of like her coming out party, right?
Yeah.
It was Winter's.
Yeah, I mean, before she exploded like in like the Hunger Games, I think that she would have been making like very minor roles, sort of, kind of like what Brie Larson is doing right now, where she's mostly in like very small, movies, and she's barely now getting recognized for that.
Interesting.
Now, if we're talking Daisy Ridley, on the other hand, woo!
Oh,
I love me some Daisy Ridley.
I loved her in the movie. I loved her in The Force Awakens, and I hope she really gets a career out of this. I hope everyone does. Like,
yeah, she was pretty bamf in that movie.
Yeah, she was great in that movie.
She was awesome.
Yeah, and I can't wait to see what they do with her character and with everything. You know, she's really. If we're talking, someone else I really like, and I hope she keeps getting more roles is, and because I want to plug this movie because I actually saw it like a couple of weeks ago, and I thought it was pretty cool. Catherine Waterston. You know, I love her in Vice, and I love her in this movie called Enter Nowhere, which was very cool. Like I saw it because I'm a fan of the writer, Sean Christensen. He's in a band, or he was in a band called Stella Star, and he made this movie called Before I Disappear, which was based on a short film for which he won the Academy Award a couple of years ago, called Curfew. And it was a pretty cool movie. Like I'm telling anybody who likes like very low budget, like cool sci-fi stuff to check this one out. It's basically like, if I tell you a story, it sounds very cliche because it's about this group of people who find themselves in a cabin in the middle of the woods. Like they don't know each other, and they realize they're connected in a very weird way. And it sounds cliche, but the payoff is very cool. For me, there's a part of the end where there are like special effects, and if those look better, it actually could more readily recommend it. But it's a very cool movie, and I don't think like anybody has watched it really. But I was really surprised by it, and I enjoyed it.
What was the name of that movie?
Enter Nowhere. Yeah, Scott Eastwood is in it too, and I kind of wish he wasn't because he's not really that good in it. But he...
Well, I don't know what Scott Eastwood's been doing
except for modeling
with his life, because you're the son of Clint Eastwood, so you should pretty much just be like in westerns.
Yeah, exactly.
Not like saying that you need to be typecast because of your father, but you've got the look.
Yeah, he does.
You have the look, my friend.
Well, they kind of want him for the Han Solo movie, I think, or is it because he played like John Harrison Ford? Did he?
Well, oh God, let's not open that box, because the names that they've been kicking around, the short list that Disney released was like him, Miles Teller, which, I mean...
Yeah, that's interesting.
Fuck me. Dave Franco.
Nah.
I mean, I can't see either one of them as young Harrison Ford / Han Solo.
For me...
Have you ever wanted to dive deeper into the horror movies you love? Beyond the Blood is a horror podcast for fans who want more than just surface-level screams. We do deep dives into the movies that shaped us, digging into director commentaries, behind-the-scenes stories, deleted scenes, and the special features that most people skip. Each episode is a love letter to the genre. We break down how these films were made, the creative risks that paid off or didn't, and the lasting impact they've had on the genre as a whole. From 70s slashers to modern nightmares, we celebrate the craft, chaos, and characters that keep us coming back. If you're the kind of fan who rewatches movies with the commentary on, or you simply grew up in the video store horror aisle, the Beyond the Blood podcast was made for you. New episodes every single week. Subscribe, and let's dig deep. Welcome to the Beyond the Blood podcast.
The closest one is Ansel Elgort, because he kind of like has the mannerisms like and sort of like a very, very young Harrison Ford look, by extra young. Not like, I'm not talking even American Graffiti young. I'm like talking like someone who, like, well, he looked like 10 years before that. And I think he could play him, but I agree with what people have been saying, that I think it would be wiser they just hire a complete unknown.
That's what you've got to do, because you have two different completely, egos or completely different known people, It's usually best to do like an unknown for something like that.
Yeah, you just do the same thing they did for The Force Awakens. Just get very young and very unknown people. I know this really has some experience in acting. Like, she's been doing like short films and stuff in Britain, kind of things, and John Boyega.
She was the most unknown.
Yeah.
I mean, Adam Driver was in Girls. John Boyega was in
Attack on the Block.
Attack on the Block, which is awesome if you've never seen it. Movie. But I mean, she was like beyond unknown.
Yeah, and for me, I think that's been like the key in the Star Wars movie. Like, if you look back on the first one, I think the most well known of the bunch was probably Alec Guinness. Like, pretty much everyone else hadn't really like jumped to fame, and I think they should just keep doing the same thing. Just hire an unknown, because it's just that shakes up people's perspectives a bit. And they don't get what can I say, they're not like polluted with the impression of the actor they have beforehand,
right?
They're not distracted.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
While watching the movie, yeah.
But I keep remembering, it's just a prologue, like in Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, when they had River Phoenix, right? They had played Indiana Jones at the start,
right?
So it's not impossible. But I think River Phoenix at that point was more well known than anybody, and again, it's just the beginning of the movie, but he made it work but that was because he was a really good actor. Like, for me, that was one of the best parts of that trilogy. Let's pretend there's not a fourth one.
I think everyone would like to pretend that.
And he's really good, but that was because he was a brilliant actor, and I'm sure there's many young actors who have that kind of range right now.
Right. No, I agree. I feel like casting an unknown is better than casting Dave Franco or Miles Teller.
Yeah, exactly.
Sean, have you been watching anything?
Yeah, you know what? I've been watching a bunch of like those movies. I watched Goodnight Mommy, which we talked about last week, because it is now on Amazon Prime, and it was okay. It was
overhyped.
I agree. I thought it was pretty predictable from the beginning. I didn't think it was a bad movie, but it was interesting. It was one of those slow burns, but it was it was okay. Definitely okay. It was like you said, overhyped. But I also saw Green Inferno finally, and I was a little disappointed. But I guess I should have.
I heard nothing good about.
Yeah, it was just like it was a gore porn movie. That's about as good as it gets.
Delivered to you by the man Eli Roth,
who I'm obsessed with, and I was just a little sad about that.
I saw that it was on iTunes. I was like, yeah, well, I don't really want to watch it.
It's pretty much exactly what you think it's going to be.
Yeah. What have I been watching? I haven't been watching much outside of just trying to get ahead of the Oscar stuff because of the Oscar nominations that came out earlier this week. Did you guys get a chance to check out the Oscar nominations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what did you guys think of the nominations? I have them in front of me.
That's what I'm looking at. It's always funny. The Oscars always remind me of movies that I forgot that came out.
Or movies that you knew were going to just get.
Of course. Yeah. I'm like, oh,
yeah. The things that stick out to me are Mad Max getting the Best Picture nomination.
Yeah.
Because I think the three of us can be in agreement it's not going to win.
Yeah, I really don't see it winning. It would be a huge, huge surprise if it did.
Yeah.
And it's not because it's not deserving. I think it's deserving, but I think that it's the look at us trying to stay hip with the mainstream people.
Exactly.
And last time they did that was Avatar and Juno to some extent.
Oh my God, wow.
Right? Like Juno more than Avatar, but I mean Avatar was that's all I'm gonna say. One of those few movies that I just I don't know how it made as much money as it did, and nobody gives a shit about it.
Yeah, it's like it's gone.
Nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, I really don't know what's gonna happen when they do the sequels. I really don't know what's gonna happen.
Well, it'll keep Sam Worthington employed.
Yeah, but I don't think we'll see the same kind of success the first one got like at all.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect to.
But who knows?
I know some people were a little surprised that Hateful Eight didn't get the Best Picture nomination. The Best Picture nominations are The Big Short, Bridge of Spies, Brooklyn, Mad Max, like I said, The Martian, The Revenant, Room, and Spotlight. I don't think that list is particularly surprising. I had never heard of Brooklyn before it got nominated.
Yeah, me neither.
No, I have, but I haven't watched because it hasn't come. Oh, wait, I think it's here, like playing nearby, sort of, but I haven't gone to see it.
It just doesn't sound like my kind of movie, or the kind of movie that even piques my interest.
Yeah, I'm the same thing with. I haven't heard of Spotlight either, so I feel the same way. That's usually how I feel.
I mean, Spotlight sounded pretty interesting because of the cast. It's got like Michael Keaton, John Slattery, like a bunch of like, Mark Ruffalo. It's got like a good number of people, Rachel McAdams. But I mean, I don't know. Saoirse Ronan. Okay, like that's you're not like, and then the fact it's about like an immigrants coming to the United States, like that just doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
So, I think the more interesting categories this year, and the ones that are being, extolled as closer races, are the actor and actress.
Yeah.
I'm actually kind of surprised that Fassbender got the nomination for Steve Jobs.
Me too, because I liked Steve Jobs. I thought it was a good movie, but I really kept thinking, with another cast, with another directors, would have been a fucking masterpiece, because I could tell the script by Aaron Sorkin was great, but the way it was like directed, it wasn't, it just wasn't. I'm a big fan of Danny Boyle, like he's one of my favorite directors, but I really felt like in this one he just wasn't like the best guy for the job, because I think that Danny Boyle's all about getting you to the character, and the point with Steve Jobs was that he couldn't let anyone get near him. Like he's supposed to be like a very distant character, and for example, that's why like David Fincher was a perfect fit for The Social Network, because that's the kind of character.
Hello, filthy movie lovers. My name is Gentry Austin.
And I'm Casey Scott.
And we're the hosts of the Sin Syndicate, film podcast for something weirdos, anti-criterion bros, and Joseph Sarno aficionados. Join us semi-weekly as we peer into the adults-only theaters and sticky-floored cinemas of the golden age of sexploitation, when the morals were loose, the laws were murky, and the intercourse was all simulated. Find us now on the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
That Aaron Sorkin wrote in that one, that's sort of like Mark Zuckerberg was supposed to be in that movie, and he was like he was perfect for it, because that's Fincher's style. Like he keeps you like a distance, and then suddenly like he brings you in where you least expect it. And Danny Boyle is very in your face when it comes to, like, he's not really like a subtle director, and I love him for that. But I really don't think he was he was the best fit for it. And when it comes to Fassbender's performance, I don't know. I just didn't really buy it all that much. Like I never felt like I was actually watching him. Like I wasn't actually watching Steve Jobs. I kept thinking like, oh, there's Fassbender playing Steve Jobs at 3 different times. And again, it's not a bad movie. I liked it, but I kept thinking, you know what? If Boyle would have stepped out his A game, or he would have, done a different direction with it, or is Fincher has stuck around with like Christian Bale or somebody else, this would have been a masterpiece. But it's good, but I really didn't like it as much as I was hoping for.
Well, and then you have what is to me just the biggest load of shit for, and Sean knows what I'm.
Oh, I know where it's going.
Actor in a leading role, Eddie Redmayne in The Danish Girl. Like, I don't think I can roll my eyes hard enough, because Eddie Redmayne is quickly taking up the mantle of Mr. Pander to the Academy. Mm-hmm. I mean, last year with the Stephen Hawking biopic, it was good. I mean, I don't even think it was good. I think it was okay. I mean, biopics kind of on their face are pretty dry,
right,
and rote in the way that they do things.
Exactly.
It takes a really distinct style to make a biopic really interesting, and I don't think it was there last year with The Theory of Everything. And then watching The Danish Girl this year, I could see the Academy Award in his eyes every time he looked on, every time he was, close up on screen. I mean, it was ridiculous. I
was thinking I gotta make up for Jupiter Ascending.
Wow. Oh shit. He probably doesn't even want us to mention that.
Oh, wow.
We're gonna get a cease and desist delivered now from Eddie Redmayne's lawyer saying, "Don't mention he was in this movie."
Yeah, right.
Oh my god. Apparently, I haven't seen any of the actress leading role films yet. But apparently that's a pretty tight race, is what I've been reading.
Yeah.
I don't know. Again, I like Joy and I really like Jennifer Lawrence in it, but I don't know if I would give that an award. Like, she was really good in it, but I don't think it was. I had the feeling that. Again, I haven't seen the rest of these performances, but I get the feeling that it's not the best one I'm gonna be seeing from these films in particular.
From everything I've read, it's close for Brie Larson, who won the Golden Globe, which is normally like a pretty good indicator.
Yeah.
And Charlotte Rampling in 45 Years is supposedly amazing as well.
Yeah.
So I don't think Jennifer Lawrence wins another one.
Yeah, I don't think so. I'm dying.
For playing a woman like a 45-year-old woman when she's like our age.
Well, in the movie, she starts like being like 20 something, so it's like she's not really like old until the end, I think. But I don't know. But again, that was I like her performance a lot, but I kept thinking I don't think this is the best performance I'm gonna be seeing this year, and
Right.
I don't know. I would like Brie Larson to win because I like her, and Room looks good, but I haven't seen it yet. But I heard she was amazing in Short Term 12, so I'm not surprised that she's finally got a nomination.
Yeah, I loved her. Oh man, I love that movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd like for her to win. I think everything I've read, her performance sounds really interesting in Room for sure. Supporting role, I haven't seen. The only movie I've seen from supporting role is Mark Rylance in Bridge of Spies.
Same.
But I mean, I've heard nothing but good things about Tom Hardy in The Revenant.
That's right.
Yeah, well, same here. Like the people I hear like that bash like Tom Hardy's performance, and to be people who don't really like Tom Hardy in the first place. So
I mean, I don't like Tom Hardy, but I'm willing to give him another shot, and by another I mean like fourth time.
Yeah, and I don't know. I haven't seen any of the other movies yet. Like, I really want to watch The Big Short because it's playing here, but I haven't been able to go see it. And I keep hearing great things about Creed. And again, like, I'm really mad because that movie. When did that movie come out? Like in November, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been out for like 6 months. It feels like. I mean, it's only been out for like 3, but it feels like it's been out forever.
Yeah, I've heard a lot about that movie.
Yeah, because it was supposed to come out here in Mexico like in January, and then I heard the other day that they moved it to February. Like, you know what? That doesn't make any sense, like, at all.
Well, and you talked about The Big Short. I think it would be really funny if Adam McKay wins Best Director.
Yeah,
because then you could say the director of Anchorman is an Oscar-winning director.
Yeah,
for real.
Like that, right? Like 2 years ago, he was making Anchorman 2: The Legend Continues.
Yeah,
that was his last directing credit before The Big Short was Anchorman 2, and that movie is not great.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but it's I like Anchorman but I think that my favorite movie of his is actually the other guys, because it's just very funny, and again, it just nails perfectly like the way it makes fun of like action movies. It's just perfect, and I love that. And I thought it was very well directed. But it's gonna be weird if he actually wins to be calling him like an Academy Award winning director of Anchorman and Talladega Nights.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure, that's cool.
Actress in a supporting role, Alicia Vikander. I mean, I feel like she was going to get nominated for something this year, considering how she's been in like 8 million movies, is what it feels like.
Yeah.
I'm surprised she didn't get nominated for Ex Machina.
Yeah, that's
Ex Machina kind of got the big shaftaroo this year.
It kind of did, especially because I was hearing so much about it from like Oscar hype before it came out, and like she was supposed to be a big newcomer.
Yeah, again, I haven't seen. Well, I saw Kate Winslet and Steve Jobs, and she was actually very good in it, but I don't know, like it just wasn't outstanding for me. It just didn't jump out to me as much as it could, and that's because I feel it's because of the nature of her character in the movie. She doesn't really get to do much, to be honest. Alicia Vikander, I loved her, but I haven't seen The Danish Girl, but I would have definitely considered her for Ex Machina. Like, I was actually talking to a friend yesterday in which he said, yeah, they nominated her for the wrong movie. It should have been Ex Machina instead of The Danish Girl.
She doesn't do much in Danish Girl. I can tell you that much. She doesn't do a whole lot. Not where I was like, oh, she deserves a nomination.
Right.
I was like, I mean, the movie is Eddie Redmayne in drag the entire movie. I mean, that's a spotlight of the movie. I mean, that's the highlight of the movie is seeing that, if you consider that a highlight. and that's nothing against the trans community. It's just Eddie Redmayne in drag is really distracting. And it's not well done. It's really bad.
Because we know it's Eddie Redmayne.
Yeah, we know it's Eddie Redmayne in drag. I mean, there's not a question of that.
Yeah.
And she's just okay in that movie. I mean, that movie's not good, and her performance doesn't elevate the movie past being mediocre at best. But, I mean, everything I've heard about, like you said, Oscar, everything I've heard about Ex Machina is, the movie got snubbed. I mean, the Oscars are notorious for snubbing everybody.
Yeah.
Ryan Coogler, the director of Creed, he got the big snub this year. Michael B. Jordan got snubbed for Creed. I've heard people saying Spike Lee should have gotten nominated for She-Rock. I mean, the Academy I don't think the Academy has intentionally a white bias. I don't think they do. They might. But the way they nominate people sure seems that way.
Yeah, that's true. Again, that's sort of what I was telling a friend of mine who actually made a really good point, I think, which is that the problem is that overall it's the Academy Awards reflect the culture, and the problem is that the movies themselves are not diverse enough.
Right, they're all white. The movies are all whitewashed that we're watching.
And it's even better as one of them is a white man playing a white woman. Like,
right.
Yeah.
Like, you can't even, explain that away either.
Yeah, but again, I think it's more of a cultural thing, too. Like, if the movies were more diverse, probably the awards would be more diverse as well.
Yeah.
But I see your point that, who knows, maybe they're not doing it intentionally, but it is a bit weird. But at the same time, you look at the movies that are being made and you think, well, it's more of a cultural thing, which is probably even worse and probably even sadder.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, you look at movies like Gods of Egypt, which whitewash the shit out of everybody in that movie. I mean, you're like you said, the culture and I don't know, maybe Hollywood's convinced only white people are going to be the ones that draw.
Yeah. But...
I mean, look at what happened when they cast John Boyega in Star Wars.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Or Michael B. Jordan, who was cast in the Fantastic Four movie. I mean, that movie was garbage.
But still.
No one will argue that movie's whether or not the movie's good.
Yeah.
But, Michael B. Jordan probably, from everything I've heard about Creed, should have gotten a nod.
Yeah.
Yeah. But at the same time, I mean, look at Star Wars. Like, people were thinking, I mean, the haters, like people who are sexist and racist were like, oh, like, that movie's gonna bomb because nobody wants to see like a woman lead the role, or they don't want to see like a black guy play the lead role. And look, it's look at all the money it's made. I mean, it's Star Wars, but but I think that people's point, like the dumb people's points, that it's not gonna make enough money because people are being cast in those roles, like because of John Boyega and Daisy Ridley being cast as leads. So I think that, like the facts make that this much money, like it proves that people don't really care. I mean, they just want to see a good Star Wars movie.
Exactly.
If it's good, they're gonna go see it again and again. And probably casting two actors as good as those in those roles is gonna help the movie be a success.
Exactly. That's the reasons why I liked it so much, and it's because it's a Star Wars movie, like you said. Everyone was gonna see it. Everyone did see it, and it was a perfect opportunity to change up the game a little bit. And I think that hopefully we'll start to see it pave the way for a few more. That's my hope, at least.
Yeah, I mean,
well, hopefully the Academy takes note is the real issue.
Yeah,
because that, I mean, I don't know. Well, I don't think that they have some sort of nefarious intentions, but
it's just
if this keeps happening, it will become a real problem. It's a problem now, but when people start boycotting and shit like that, I mean, then real problems will be had.
It's a relic of the Cold War.
Yeah, but again, not just the Academy, but all of Hollywood can take note that these movies can make money, and if people, and you have that the point is that diversity doesn't hurt, and not just the Academy has to learn that, but all of the industry.
Yeah.
No, I completely agree. So, well, let's take a respite from talking about Oscar movies. We're gonna have an entire month to talk about them. Oh man, holy cow! let's talk License to Kill from 1989. Directed by John Glenn, Richard Maibaum and Michael G. Wilson wrote the film. This is Richard Maibaum's last writing credit on the Bond franchise. He had written a lot of James Bond films up until this point, starting with Dr. No all the way up to Living Daylights. The film stars Timothy Dalton in his final turn as James Bond and Robert Davi as the villain Franz Sanchez. It also has a very young baby face, Benicio del Toro.
Yeah.
Baby.
The IMDb synopsis for the film is James Bond goes rogue and sets off to unleash vengeance on a drug lord who tortured his best friend, a CIA agent, and left him for dead and murdered his bride after he helped capture
It's nothing personal. It's purely business.
Killing me won't stop anything, Sanchez! See you in hell!
This private vendetta of yours could easily compromise Her Majesty's government.
You're going after Sanchez, aren't you? Are you crazy?
Make a sound, and you're dead.
Your license to kill is revoked. Effective immediately.
I'm assuming neither one of you guys have seen this film before.
Nope.
No, I haven't actually.
So, what did y'all think of the film?
I actually thought it was a pretty good Bond movie. I'm not sure if I would call it one of the best, but it's pretty solid and it was fun, which is what a Bond movie should be. It should be at least entertaining. What I like about this movie is that it is probably the most grounded Bond movie I've seen, like even compared to something like Casino Royale. Because it deals with a very real, very plausible problem, which is, and it has a very real plausible villain, which is a drug lord. Like I could actually see that kind of guy existing. And for me, the movie kind of felt almost more like a low-key thriller instead of a big action Bond movie. And again, I thought it was very cool because it had an absolutely brutal villain, played by Robert Davi. Mr. Sanchez played by Robert Davi, and he was great in this role. He was pretty scary, and just the way he would like kill people without hesitation was just, he was like a very scary guy. And to me, I think one of the coolest things about this movie is that it's pretty dark, but at the same time, there's plenty of levity around it, and you sort of like get a glimpse of what life is like for the agents outside the. Outside like of all the espionage, you get to see them married, you get to see them at weddings, like hanging out, partying. That it gives the characters more dimension than you would expect, and it's what's pretty cool about this movie? Well, everything. I think that it needed. I think that what hurts in some ways that it feels a bit dated to an extent, and I think that's where you could kind of like see. I think the problem with the movie is that it's almost uncomfortable. Like the movie feels uncomfortable with itself. Like it's very self-conscious that it's not like really playing like the usual Bond thing, but at the same time it kind of wants to. Like I think that's what makes it struggle a bit as a Bond film overall. That you could tell they were a bit tired. They weren't completely sure what they were doing, but at the same time, like they made the best of it. And I think it resulted in a fun and cool Bond movie.
I mean, I totally agree, and I think it's funny that you say that because I was going to say this is probably the least 007 movie out of them all that I've seen so far because it totally strays from that formula, and I can see that they wanted that they kind of stray. Even Timothy Dalton as James Bond, who I've been looking forward to seeing play the character, he's different. It's the first time we sort of see Bond almost lose that smooth tone and quality about him, and he's a much more relatable guy. He's almost like a friend that you would have, and I kind of like that. And the movie is about a much more emotional Bond, and like you said, on their off hours, and I thought that was kind of cool. It was kind of cool to see a more personal vendetta coming from Bond, So that was cool. I like that.
Oh, man. I have something to tell you guys about this film. Timothy Dalton is my favorite James Bond.
Okay.
And this is one of my favorite Bond movies, which is going to color my commentary a bit on this film. Just forewarning. But that being said, I do agree with what you were saying, Oscar, about the film never feeling comfortable with itself. Because, you know, what surprises me about this movie, right? And where this would go next into GoldenEye, you would almost feel like License to Kill would be the logical precursor to Casino Royale.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Daniel Craig film.
Exactly.
Because this film, it does have some of the jokiness and some of the camp and you know, the smart wit. And I don't think that James Bond has ever lost his smart wit, except with Daniel Craig a little bit, where it's all about the brooding, not about the quick wit.
Yeah.
But where they go from License to Kill to GoldenEye, which, as much as I love GoldenEye, and it's one of the best Bond films, in my opinion, this film is pretty dark. I mean, in the first 25 minutes, Felix Leiter gets his leg bitten off by a shark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And his wife is raped and murdered by Benicio del Toro and his gang of roving drug cronies.
We also see a woman like getting whipped.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this movie really doesn't take any prisoners with how kind of brutal it is with the stuff that's happening around Bond.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, totally. I think it's interesting, like you said, with GoldenEye, because that's the next one up, isn't it? I mean, that's when Pierce Brosnan takes over.
Yeah, Prince Pierce Brosnan would take over after this, even though Timothy Dalton almost was in GoldenEye.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's funny because it does totally go right back to camp with GoldenEye, because I just watched GoldenEye and Casino Royale actually just this weekend. And it's funny because Casino Royale, to me, was like, okay, this is where it's changed. This is the big change. This is where we lose the camp, and it's very serious. And then I saw this movie, and I was like, okay, so this is a pretty interesting balance between that camp and the very serious. It definitely leans more on a very stoic, sort of very intense tone the whole time.
Yeah, absolutely.
And some of the backstory with this movie, and Timothy Dalton as Bond. Timothy Dalton as Bond, he was almost cast as Bond, I want to say like 10 years prior to this movie. And they said he was too young to play Bond at the time.
Interesting.
Wow.
So they kept it with Roger Moore, who was way too old to be James Bond. Who was too old to be James Bond when he was initially James Bond. Timothy Dalton, when he picked up the mantle of Bond was, I want to say, like 40-ish. So, I mean, he's still pretty old, but he doesn't look it.
No, he definitely still looks
Timothy Dalton looks suave as fuck, and he looks like a pretty, like, buff, toned, brooding with the kind of the widow's peak hair thing going on. But, when he was 30, they were like, he's too young to be Bond, which a little bit of a strange thing to say.
Yeah.
But I think that Roger Moore would not have worked, obviously, in this film.
No way.
At all. And I really don't feel like Pierce Brosnan would have worked in this film.
No.
Yeah, we sort of needed Timothy Dalton to bring us Pierce Brosnan. You know what I mean? Like, I think it makes sense following Timothy Dalton, but I don't think I could see us jumping right into that type of Bond,
Bond fucks everything that moves.
Yeah.
Which is what Pierce Brosnan is.
And has, like, extremely horrible wit, but I love it.
Yeah. Oh, man. Oh, Timothy. Oh, Pierce Brosnan as Bond. Oh, Lord. As much as I love it, it's some campy shit.
It's the campiest.
Yeah.
It's totally.
It's like Roger Moore level of camp. Let's talk about some of the main highlights of the film. What did you guys think about the pre-credit scene of the film?
All the way, right?
Yeah, where Bond and Leiter are going to Felix Leiter's wedding, and in doing so, they end up taking a detour to kidnap and incarcerate Franz Sanchez. The drug lord, the Pablo Escobar of the film. What did you guys think of that whole set piece of them in the plane capturing the other plane?
I thought that was maybe the campiest part of the movie. It was fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it was it was the lightest part, maybe the lightest part of the movie. I mean, it's so perfect. Just the idea of landing at the wedding in a parachute, but your tux is pretty much spotless.
Yeah.
That's pretty like typical, like badass spy. You know what I mean? But then from there it goes dark,
Yeah, it was campy, but it was at least fun. And again, I think it works because what I was saying earlier, it services that in the story in the regard you get to see more of the like the normal lives of these people. Like in some way, it humanizes them a bit. Like you wouldn't think that Bond would be like a best man or anything like that, and there he is.
Right.
And they get to go to weddings, they have friends, it makes it, it gives it dimension. At the same time, I think that's actually important because you're supposed to understand that Bond's pissed that one of his friends got killed. And that's a big deal. And
yeah, I think that happens right when he mentions what I thought was super out of character and strange is when Leiter explains to his wife that he lost that he was married once, and that was it definitely affected him. And I thought that was interesting and brought me back to Lazenby and On Her Majesty's Secret Service. It's so funny because I think Chris, you might have even mentioned that before, but it was such a stark because of the way that movie ended. It was such a stark reminder, and I knew exactly what they were talking about in a way that I knew it was going to be heavy from here on in,
Yeah, and again, it just provides a movie with humanity, and you feel that Bond is completely justified on his actions, and you know what? Because from if I'm not remembering wrong, I don't think we had really seen much of Bond's life outside outside espionage. That we haven't seen actually much of it. So this, again, an opening like this, campy as it is, it's fun, and it gets the job done in giving you an idea that Bond actually cares about people. He's not just a stoic guy. He has friends, he cares about them, and I think the opening establishes that perfectly.
And how awesome was it that Bond is hanging off the side of a helicopter? Yeah. Capturing a plane in midair, which then Christopher Nolan would go and directly rip off in the third Batman film.
Right.
Oh yeah,
directly rip off.
It's just shot for shot.
And that pre-credit roll kind of sequence also introduces how fucking harsh Franz Sanchez is.
Yeah.
Cutting that dude's heart out.
Yeah.
Literally.
Ooh,
Cut his heart the fuck out. I mean, that, most of the Bond up until this point has been pretty, a guy shoots a guy or he'll throw him to some sharks or something.
Right.
He's not like, I'm going to literally cut your fucking heart out.
Right. Well,
dude.
now we're starting to see blood splatters and pools of blood. It's getting a little more, edgier.
Well, and especially later in the film, we'll see some scenes where, it's the most brutal Bond ever gets in the history.
Oh, man, yeah.
Yeah. Especially scenes involving Benicio del Toro.
Good Lord.
Yeah. This is something we haven't talked about a whole lot this month, but I think it's worth noting. What did you guys think of the song? The song "License to Kill" by Gladys Knight, of all people.
It's okay. It's not really. It's not really that memorable. It's not hard. It's not bad. For me, as far as I think, probably the worst Bond song gets "Diner Day" by Madonna. I like Madonna, but that song is super. Watching that song. When you guys get to talk about Diner Day, watching the song against footage of Bond being tortured, that was the weirdest juxtaposition ever, and not in a good way. And so that one for me is the worst song, and this one's not really nowhere as bad as that one. It's just it's sort of there. It's it's an 80s Bond movie. It's what you would expect to hear.
Right. It's funny because I most of the songs are kind of like that. They're kind of contrived to fit the theme, and
except for "A View to a Kill" by Duran Duran, which is fucking awesome. And actually, "Living Daylights" by Aha, the other Dalton Films theme song, is way better than this one. This one kind of fits the tone of the movie.
Yeah,
a little bit.
It's again, it's not offensive in any regard. It's fine. Just not I don't see. I've seen the movie twice now, and I never felt I just forget the song instantly after the sequence is over. Which is
me too. I agree.
So let's talk a little bit about the main cast. We've talked a little bit about Dalton as Bond. And Oscar, since this is the only time this month you're going to be sitting down with us to talk James Bond, where does Timothy Dalton rank for you as Bond, and who is your favorite Bond and your least favorite Bond?
I mean, that's such a harsh question and very hard at the same time. Because I think, Jesus, where would I rank Timothy Dalton? Because I think that Sean Connery is my favorite. I would probably put Dalton sort of second to him, like very hesitant because I love Roger Moore. But what I like about Timothy Dalton is that it's easier for me to buy him as both, both a spy and someone who's ready to kill people. But at the same time, I buy him as a normal human being. Whereas with Roger Moore, for example, when I saw, what was it called? I'm forgetting right now. When I saw For Your Eyes Only, for example, comparing him to when I saw him in The Spy Who Loved Me, like he kind of has to go with the two extremes. Like he can either be like a soft Bond or he can be like like a stone cold Bond sort of. And with Timothy Dalton, I feel like he can play both at the same time. So for me, that gives him the place of being like sort of like the second best Bond to Sean Connery's first. And worst Bond, I hate to say it, and I think it's more of a result of the movies not using him as well as they could have, but probably Pierce Brosnan. And he's good. The problem is that the movies they didn't give him a lot to work with, and that's a problem. And we don't really get to see like his best Bond because of that.
What did you guys think of Robert Davi as Franz Sanchez? I mean, Bond is only as good as his villain, right?
Yeah.
And what did you guys think of the villain in the film?
He was cool and scary.
Yeah, this was the first one. I was just going to say that he was like he was scary. You know, he has that rough face and he rips hearts out. Like what? I mean, it's hard. He was the first villain that was actually frightening on screen. That was pretty cool. And not in a hokey way.
Yeah, and he has like an enormous amount of presence as well because he's not like a lot of Bond villains tend to be sort of like in the background, kind of like hanging out, just letting their henchmen do their work. I like that this guy got his hands dirty. Oh yeah, he was always there with his henchmen. He wouldn't hesitate to kill like anybody with them, and that was pretty cool for the villain. You like you said, we saw that last week with Moonraker, where Drax doesn't do anything the entire movie. I mean, he just like hangs back
and floats into space.
Yeah, and he lets Jaws do all of his dirty work.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And then in this film, Franz Sanchez, like, he's there. I mean, he is fist fighting Bond on the back of a 18-wheeler full of cocaine-fueled gasoline. At the end of, they're fist fighting, and he's got like a machete, and he's gonna kill it.
Yeah, that was intense.
I mean, you never would have seen Drax do any of that.
Yeah.
For a number of reasons, primarily because Roger Moore was never gonna do any of his own stunts. But this is one of the first Bond films, and maybe the only Bond film where there is a tangible feeling of dread and suspense when it comes to him on screen.
Yeah.
The villain.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He does such brutal things. And that's and I think, like we were saying before, this does take a dark tone and it just makes sense. Of course our villain has to be above and beyond.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's a South American drug dealer.
Right.
This movie, coming out in '89, right at the height of, the war on drugs.
Yeah, that big drug cartel. Yeah, absolutely.
This feels like it's ripped right out of the front headlines.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And do you guys think that, in a way, because the Bond movies, like the first ones, they were kind of like reflect of the Cold War. But I think that the fact that a problem like this one, like the drug war, is more closer to, it's something more tangible because, again, I think there was more distance to the Cold War because, like, you're basically, your villains are in a whole other continent, whereas in the drug war, they can live like right where you are. And do you think that the fact this movie is more respectful, sort of like the issues, was a result of that because it was more present and more tangible to the country compared to the Cold War, and which probably nonsense because I haven't really lived through that time. But that's sort of like one of the first things that came to mind when I was watching this movie.
Yeah, me too.
I think so. I think that they had to handle this a little bit more seriously because they did have the kind of the immediate location for some of the audience watching this film,
right?
Especially the American audience, or especially the South American audience watching this film. They're in the middle of this drug war. Mm-hmm. I think that they had to be a little bit more reticent of how they handled it. And also, I mean, the drug war stuff, I mean, that's, it's guerrilla warfare, more or less. I mean, they're not trained military soldiers. I mean, they talk about how Benicio del Toro's character, Dario, was an ex-Contra, but even he was too nuts for the Contra, so they kicked him out. But I think that was, I mean, the drug war is dark and messed up anyways. So, I think that I think it was important for them to portray this seriously and with respect because, I mean, like the drug war stuff is pretty serious and messed up.
Yeah.
So, what did you guys think of Talisa Soto and Carrie Lowell as the two Bond girls?
I liked them. They were okay. Again, as it happens with a lot of this, Bond girls, they were kind of one-dimensional. Yeah. But I think they were good in like getting more of a soft side from Bond. I think that I like that Pam Bouvier, like the one that Carrie Lowell plays. She was more of she was kind of like a badass, like this week, next week, or whenever this airs, I'm gonna be talking about Tomorrow Never Dies, which has Michelle Yeoh, right?
Yeah, Michelle Yeoh.
Michelle Yeoh. Yeah, sorry about that. Like, I feel like this character, she was a precursor to that, and
interesting.
And sort of like you have like a badass Bond girl, who fights back. She's like trained and all. She has that experience. Like, I love that part in the movie where she says something like, where it looks like she's been shot, and like Bond's like, you could have been killed, and she's like, oh no, I'm wearing a bulletproof vest, and he like keeps insisting, like, you could have been killed, and she's like, oh, it's not, it's the experience. I have experience in this, like she's been through this kind of thing before, and it shows. I thought that was very cool, but she doesn't really get to do much other than be a badass sort of.
Yeah, I mean, I think her character gets a lot of off-screen work done, and I think that kind of, like you said, is a precursor to what we see from the Bond girls later on, who have a much more complex relationship with Bond, and I liked that. As I think Talisa was sort of like a callback. It felt like a callback to the classic Bond girl, whereas Pam or Carrie Lowell was more of what we are. She's got that bob. She's like a woman of like the future, the modern woman.
Yeah.
I really like Carrie Lowell as Pam Bouvier. She's my favorite Bond girl.
Cool.
Oscar. Cool, bro.
No,
cool, bro.
No, like I genuinely mean.
I say that because she has the sex appeal, obviously. But also she like you guys have said, she holds her own against Bond.
Yeah.
Which, I think for me is the most important part about a Bond girl is if she can hold her own against, Mr. Smooth and sophisticated Bond. And she really does hold her own. I mean, she gets the best of Wayne Newton's character, which, oh my, I don't even know why he's in this movie, but I was still trying to figure that out. But Talisa Soto was okay. She didn't really do much.
No.
So
that's exactly what
she's kind of hanging around. And that's fine. But, I mean, like you said, she really is kind of a throwback to the Bond girls of Connery's era that just kind of are there to be rescued by Bond.
Exactly.
So, what did you guys think of kind of the other smaller roles in the film, like Anthony Zerba as Crest or Benicio del Toro as Dario? What do you guys think of kind of the minor characters in the film?
I was going to say, I love how it took me a while to realize that was Benicio del Toro. That was fun for me. But they're just equal. That's one thing that I liked about this one is that even the minor characters were really intense too. They weren't thrown away. Dario is like his right-hand man, and we see him. He's brutal. He's just as scary. Except for he's silent the whole time. So that's kind of I love that. Plus, I love Benicio.
Well, and he's the one who rapes Felix Leiter.
That's right. That's right.
No, yeah, I totally agree. I think that a movie like this kind of like lives or dies by the minor characters, especially again because the revenge of it is supposed to be a big deal to the to the film, and it was important that every minor character like around Bond, you're supposed to see how they hang out, how they're friends, and they made that work really well. And for that, they really couldn't just half-ass it with how they wrote or acted the characters. They just made them all memorable and they stick around. And Benicio del Toro's Dario was pretty cool, and I almost wish he was in this movie a bit more than he is already, because he's so he was so cool as a henchman. And yeah, for me, like who stood out was Everett McGill as Ed Kilifer, because it was very weird seeing him outside of Twin Peaks, playing another guy called Ed, for that matter. It was like, oh, he's in this movie. I didn't know. Like he was on his way to being on Twin Peaks, I guess, before this. And yeah, it's very, very cool, very well used background characters and character actors overall to do those roles. Even Q, played by Desmond Llewellyn in this movie, he's I like how he like sort of like interacts with Bond in this one, and with Pam, with Lupe and everyone. He was also really cool in this.
Well, you get to see him and Bond interact on outside of just their business. He goes down to the lab and interact.
Uh-huh.
I mean, Q comes to him because Moneypenny tells him Bond needs help, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's a whole other element that I really loved about this movie that I hadn't seen before, is the rogue agent, and now MI6 is even after him. Like, I thought that was an interesting, layer. I thought that was cool.
Just wait for Daniel Craig's Bond to do it. They haven't. I guess they kind of did it a little bit with Spectre. Was it Spectre where they did it, where they implanted him with the tracking device?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I like all the secondary characters. Like you mentioned, Everett McGill outside of Twin Peaks, or the thing that always cracks me up whenever I think about him is Stilgar in David Lynch's Dune.
Oh.
I like that movie, as bad as that movie is. But I think a lot of our, like, I wish we had more Benicio del Toro comes from the fact that it's who he is now.
That's true.
You know what I mean? I mean, how crazy was it that Benicio del Toro would go on to win an Oscar for Traffic, and then would go on to be, the new villain in the next Star Wars film. He's this babyface in License to Kill. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's all looking back on it, but I do wish he had been in it more. I do like Anthony Zerba as Crest, because he's like a slimy kind of perv.
Well, that's one of the, they're dealing with like some of the worst people, and that's one of the things about these minor characters is that they represent all of them represent extremely like ratchet people, really some messed up people. And like, I don't know, his death might have been my favorite in the movie.
Oh my God, his death is something I never thought I would see in a Bond.
Right? It's pretty intense. It's like out of a horror movie almost.
Yeah,
his head he gets rapid depressurized and his head explodes.
It explodes.
Yeah, like I'm surprised they got a PG-13 rating back in '89.
Yeah, that's impressive. That took me off guard. I was like, whoa.
It was really surprising because, it's just not something you would expect from Bond.
Yeah.
Normally they're just like killed off screen, or there's like a lot of the time there's not even blood in Bond films.
Exactly. You'll just see him get shot and there's nothing. That's kind of it. That's kind of like the style, the campiness of it. But that's what they're kind of abandoning it now. And that's, I guess, where it leads to with the later films even.
Yeah. And we can't fail to mention Cary Hiroyuki Tagawa, otherwise known as Shao Kahn or Shang Tsung from Mortal Kombat, as one of the Hong Kong narcotics guys.
Oh yeah,
that's trying to foil Franz Sanchez's plans, which I thought was pretty funny. It was just like, oh look, there's Shang Tsung. Just like, oh boy, oh jeez. Let's take this opportunity to play the interview with Robert Davi. We're going to talk about License to Kill a little bit, what it was like getting cast in the role. Working with Timothy Dalton, and then we'll talk a little bit about his music career that is kind of what he's up to now. And when we get back, we'll finish up talking about the film. editor-in-chief of Culture Shock, Chris Stachiw, and I am sitting down with Robert Davi, who played Franz Sanchez in License to Kill, and also has gone on to have a pretty prolific singing career. How are you doing today, Mr. Davi?
I'm doing great, Chris, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it, and I like your site.
Oh, thank you, and thank you for sitting down and talking with us. So let's get right to it. What drew you to the role of Franz Sanchez in License to Kill?
Well, they drew me to the role. I'll tell you what happened. I did a film called Terrorist on Trial, the United States of America versus Salim Ajami. That's one that you guys should dig up and take a look at.
Oh, yeah?
1988, produced by a man named George Englund. George Englund was Marlon Brando's partner. He also directed and produced Brando in The Ugly American. Terrorist on Trial, the United States of America versus Salim Ajami was starring me, Sam Waterston, pre-Law and Order, and an actor called Ron Liebman. I don't know if you know that actor. Ron Liebman was in Norma Ray, or he was a very well-known actor at the time. Mm-hmm. Anyway, this piece was way ahead of its time, and the New York Times and the LA Times and the Herald Examiner that was around, most newspapers around the country, raved about it, and also my performance. That being said, it caught the eye of Richard Maibaum. Richard Maibaum had written all the Bond films after License to Kill. That was the last one because he passed away. He had put on this show, he watched it, and called up Cubby Broccoli, who I had met a year earlier through his daughter Tina, who was a fan of Goonies. And Tina and I took me to dinner with her dad and stepmom Dana at the Bistro Gardens in Beverly Hills. So I was on Cubby's radar because he was also born in Astoria, Italian America, grew up in Sag Harbor, Long Island. We had a lot of symbiotic, and also my friendship with Sinatra from doing Contract on Cherry Street with Sinatra in 1977. Now, this thing airs on a Sunday night. Cubby Broccoli gets a phone call from Richard Maibaum. Richard Maibaum says, put on Channel 2. Cubby says, I've got it on. He goes, that guy, that's the new Bond villain. And Cubby says, I think so, too. They called me up the next day on a Monday. Tuesday, I was in the office at MGM meeting John Glenn, Cubby, and Michael Wilson. Them telling me, we want you to be the new Bond villain. We're writing the script now. And that was it. No reading, no nothing. It was just contingent on me and Timothy Dalton having a lunch together, which we did about a month later. And he and they saw right away the chemistry, and we hit it off together and started to read Casino Royale and shape and talk about the character and the film and the direction of the film, the intensity of bringing Bond into a more modern time. And of course, License to Kill was ahead of its time and paved the way, for what you see now. And without of course, the advancement in effects and stuff like that.
Telling people that for the longest time, that movies like License to Kill and pretty much License to Kill with its darker tone really was a precursor to the full-on realism that James Bond has embraced now.
Oh yeah.
People don't like the Timothy Dalton James Bond movies, which bums me out because those two movies, License to Kill more than Living Daylights. I'm not a huge fan of Living Daylights, just a lot of the plot, but License to Kill, I mean, people just don't like Timothy Dalton. I don't understand why.
Yeah, well, again, License to Kill. I mean, that year I did Terrorist on Trial, and I do License to Kill. Two of the most affecting and ahead of their time subject matters from 1988 and 1990.
Right.
And I played both those and understood that world and the danger that they presented to the world today. And License to Kill absolutely showed that. So it was. Some people are, it gains on the list. There are some people that have a different kind of, the only thing that they criticized Timothy for was that you could, in terms of the Bond's enjoyment of women, that Sean Connery was able to affect. But because of the political correctness, there was a bit of a holding back on that with Timothy. And Tim wanted that intensity instead of that tongue-in-cheek thing, you know what I mean? To find the tone. You had to find the tone of that cynicism. I think Sanchez was able to find it, like in lines, time to start cutting overhead or launder it. And so you had that kind of, remember, you're only president for life. But in retrospect, they should really go back and understand that John Glenn did a tremendous job with License to Kill with no special effects, being true to the Ian Fleming Bond villain, being true to the Ian Fleming Bond villain relationship,
right,
which says they should mirror image each other. And I contend, to be quite frank, that if you were having a heavyweight title fight, and this is just for myself, I'd put Sanchez in the ring with any of the other Bond villains, and let's see who wins.
Well, and I agree. I think that he is extremely ruthless, and that works well with Dalton's more brooding, serious Bond, as opposed to Roger Moore's very tongue-in-cheek Bond.
Roger Moore had a delicious aspect to it became very delicious and fun and tongue-in-cheek, but it wasn't going to survive, you know what I mean?
Right.
In terms of where we were headed, because now you had Lethal Weapon and Batman, and you had a much edgier filmmaking thing that was happening in our culture.
Right.
So you needed to have much more of a edgier Bond. And Timothy's a tremendous actor, as we know. And again, his Bond is you feel that there's a reality to them, not a hyper reality, but a reality to it that does have an extension a little bit in some of the tanker sequence, but nothing that's beyond the pale, like what we see in a lot of films today.
And how did you personally prepare for the role as Franz Sanchez?
Well, Michael Wilson was very, very helpful in terms of, we discussed that. He gave me a book called The Underground Empire. And then I started to research and ask for people who knew about that world. Colombians, got immersed in the cumbia music and the cumbia paisas dialect de Ave Maria por Hombre. And started to create, through the music and through the language, a certain kind of feel physically, that internally, that the internals of Sanchez for myself, and then his relationship to the outside world. Add that to someone who was entrepreneurial, but vicious. And, we see how how vicious the world can be. So it wasn't out of the realm of anything else. And I spoke to people that had been the architect for Pablo Escobar's house to get certain ideas on that level of his personality. And then subsequently, I had met Pablo Escobar in Brazil the year that the Bond film came out, strangely enough.
And is that there was a little note on IMDb saying that an actual drug lord spoke with you and was impressed with your performance. Was that Pablo Escobar that they talk about?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I was in Brazil doing a film. First off, the loyalty is more important to me than money, and the relationship that I had with Benicio del Toro. I incorporated the character. I couldn't. You cannot play a guy like Sanchez and then just turn it off. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. You can't go home and just be, So and then also to affect the unpredictability of the character with Benicio and with Terlisa and the Don Stroud and all the guys around me. So I had this expansiveness of even the way I lived in my hotel room of Sanchez to keep, because I now had I wanted to have, so I lived that, to a thing. So, then like I said, the loyalty is more important to me than money was a very interesting line, because the Achilles heel, that, for me, Vanessa Redgrave, who Timothy was very close to when we did the premiere in London for the Princess Trust Fund, she had come up, and her daughters and her said to me, you gave an arc to a character that shouldn't have an arc. But I knew that I had it in there because it was the dissipation of this character's, it was almost like Timothy was the Iago to my Othello, and the handkerchief, the seed of suspicion that he kept throwing on with my people. So, there was that aspect, and the discussion of developing that with Michael Wilson was very.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror. We'll cover all the subgenres, so join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Intelligent. And then the meeting of Escobar in Brazil, I was doing a film called Amazon in Manaus. And I was in Rio, Manaus, Boavista, Tepecan, which is deep jungle, about the gold digging, you know. And unfortunately, just now what happened in Brazil is a disaster. It's a shame what happened. My film was about that. It was about the gold mines and the mercury poisoning. And now these guys in one of the rios, one of the rivers, there was a dam that broke and all the fish suffocated through the mud, and some of the water is, anyway, polluted. But so I did a film on that subject. This is in 1990 with a Finnish film director called Amazon. But when I was in Brazil filming, Bond had come out. Two guys meet me in this big Hotel Tropical. I'm having lunch, and two guys approach me, and they say, "Oh, Robert Davi." He said, "We saw your film. We'd like to invite you." And there was a little discussion. A friend of ours would love to meet you, and we want to see. We know you're in town. We bet you were in town. Blah 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 blah. And so I was up for the experience. I said, "Interesting." They said, It would be very interesting for you to meet because your character in the film is." So I was now intrigued. So they drive me into this area of the jungle where there was about a half-hour, 40-minute drive from Manaus, from where I was. And it's the deep jungle in the jungle area. And it looked like, you know, it was just trees and fauna and all of that. And all of a sudden a gate opens up, a gate of trees and a driveway and surveillance and this and that to a little villa. And there it is. And I get to meet Pablo Escobar. He basically tells me a few stories and that he liked the film, about the loyalty. And he gave me some ideas. He said, "Too bad I didn't know you because I would have been interesting to put this in the film." And, you know, he was talking. And he gave me some anecdotes about himself. And anyway, that was it.
I mean, that's kind of the highest compliment one can get, right? Is, well, right? I mean, you know.
I rather came from a pope. You know,
right? Yeah, no, I got you.
You know, well, actually, the highest compliment you can get is what Quincy Jones wrote about me in the music, and Emil Richards and some of the other critics. That's probably because that's more of who I am. You know, but
right. Well, there was another. I want to ask you about another anecdote that I was reading about. You actually filled in for Timothy Dalton at one point during screen testing.
Yes, I did.
So you got to.
James Bond.
So what was that like getting, even for just a small amount of time, what was that like actually getting to play Bond?
Well, first off, I remember in the 60s growing up and seeing my first Bond film and seeing the name Albert R. Broccoli Presents. And then this wonderful world happened because there was nothing like Bond when they came out. Nothing. And, you know, like I don't care what filmmaker is around today. They've all looked at all the Bond films over and over again. And they have dissected them, and they have made different characters and this and that. All of them, all my friends, anyone. They either wanted John Milius, all these guys, all these great writers. Their dream was to play a Bond villain. You know what I mean? And so when you grew up, it was either Bond or the villain. So now I get to play both. What had happened was Cubby Broccoli and John Glenn wanted me to pick my girlfriend in the film. But they didn't want me to feel like I was auditioning or being put on the spot by having to play Sanchez. So they wanted me to play Bond. Timothy was unavailable, I guess, or something. And I said, "You kidding? I'd love to." So tuxedoed up, and I worked a little bit on my Bond, James Bond. Shaken, not stirred. I got a little bit of that going on. And I do the screen test with 16, 17 most beautiful actresses and models in the world, one after another. And after we did the one with Talisa, you know, looking at the things, I said, that's the one Sanchez, because they wanted me to pick the girl, because she was going to be my girlfriend. I said, that girl is the one that I would risk my life for. Some of these other girls are beautiful. They may be better actresses. But this one here, Sanchez, would risk his life, meaning that opening sequence. So you needed somebody that could do that to Sanchez. And they all agreed with me on that, absolutely. Then John Glenn, and I think he says it on one of the DVDs, John Glenn, they're looking at the tests and they say to themselves, John goes to Cubby, "You know, Cubby, Robert makes a terrific Bond." And Cubby says, "You know what? I think so too." And it was a funny little it gave me. I'd love to find that test. I really wish they let that test out. It would be fun to see. But and I said, all right, stop it. And they said, yeah, many. Anyway, so that was my fun part about doing Bond.
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, that's another extremely high compliment. Getting he's a pretty good Bond from Cubby Broccoli. Obviously, that's a. Oh
yeah, and then I said, God, and I even said, come on, stop teasing me, And Cubby says, hey, many a true things were said in jest, because they felt I made some big missteps, Chris, after Bond and stuff. You know what I mean? I wasn't agented like I am. I'm still not agented the way I should be. Anyway, I did some independence I may not should have, but both he and Richard Maibaum, after the Bond film, felt that I should have, within 5 years, had I made the correct choices, should have been really a major force in film. And that's one of the. I had a personal problem in my life at the time, family issue, and some other things that made me make choices that I shouldn't have, perhaps, and neglected, because it takes a tremendous amount of combination of different things to really and sacrifices to get where you should be. But it's one of the unfulfilled aspects of my career that I still feel that have, and that's where the music is my heavyweight punch, as you can see. Because I don't need, it's there.
You mentioned that, maybe some missed opportunities, and, everybody understands that. Do you feel like your foray into singing or coming back to singing is kind of you righting those wrongs and maybe righting the course of the ship?
Absolutely, because I was denying my true nature. You're in a film, and also the frustration with the shittiness of this business, the thievery, the absolute thievery, the dishonesty in Hollywood is disgusting. I created a couple of wonderful shows. I did a show called Profiler that was on the air for 4.5 years. That was ahead of its time, before CSI, before Criminal Minds, and only because NBC changed heads, and the head that they put in canceled out a Saturday night. Profiler still would have been on the air. But irrespective of that, while I would still, it's one of these things, the big fish always eat the smaller fish. And one of these big producers of NBC had a show that all of a sudden created a show that was similar to our show. And I created a show that was international in scope, told people about it, sold it a couple of times in the room, had Bruce Willis and Arnold Rifkin as my partner, and as we were making the deal, the head of the studio that was making the deal with us got fired, and the new guy didn't want that one. And then my managers pitched it to CBS and NBC, and the next thing you know, and different agents for different showrunners, there were aspects of that show all over the networks, So it's very frustrating, and that's what made me want to direct The Dukes, so I didn't have to deal with a committee. Because you go into these corrupt rooms and you pitch an idea, and then they go, hey, and they'll make, it may happen 6 months down the line where they tell somebody, what would be a good idea? This subject matter. So I got very burnt out and frustrated with this whole process.
That's and you're not the first person to echo the frustration in Hollywood with a lot of the bureaucratic undermining that seems to be really prevalent, and it's not going away ever.
No, and you know what I found worse? Politics is worse. Government is worse even. It's just as bad. I mean, what you find out in this world is that corruption is just rampant, and dishonesty and thievery on all layers. It's just pathetic. It's quite pathetic. So you say, how does the pure of heart survive in a world where you have dishonest people? Now, there's some good people and great people, and some of the dishonest people are not the heads. You know what I mean? There are others, or they have their own. Others have their own prejudice about something. So my singing is it's my voice. It's who I am, and even in that, even in that. Now, pound for pound as a singer, I'll go up against anyone. Okay. So, but even in that world, there is politics for whatever reason. So. I guess life is just what it is.
Let's get back to License to Kill. So we've mentioned you're doing your screen testing as Bond and helping pick Talisa Soto. What was it like working with Dalton and Talisa Soto and Carrie Lowell and Benicio del Toro. What was it like working with the cast and crew on the film?
Oh, they were wonderful. Well, the Bond people, all the crew was wonderful. They're like a family, an extended family, because they've been working for Cubby for many years, and John Glenn. So John was one of the most gentle, creative spirits with a great sense of humor and irony and encouragement. John Glenn, terrific human being. And all the crew. Now, the cast was wonderful. Felicia was, very open and sweet and beautiful. Benicio was, he used to call me his mentor, actually. And we were very close. Then I got him in Christopher Columbus, The Discovery, later on. Recommended it for that. But, yeah, we were tight. It was very, very, very good working with everyone.
And I've read about some of the hardships that came with working in Mexico City at the time. What was it like? What was it like filming in Mexico City?
Well, I thought the auditions were wonderful. The people were great. I had a great time, and also, I was in a world that kept me in that world. You know what I mean? It was a Latin American world that I was in. So, but there was some structural problems. Of course, communication, but the artisans were just absolutely exquisite. All the people were terrific, but. As you go to any country, there's going to be issues that they're going to have to deal with through customs and through different things and payola, corruption even, that happens. But it didn't affect performance or anything around myself. And we were isolated from any of that issue. You know what I mean? And the only real difficulty was when Cubby didn't feel well. I remember one time we were all worried, and that was the biggest concern for me around that shooting.
The intro of the film is, like you've mentioned, your character kind of goes out on a limb to rescue his girlfriend, and then there's this really epic plane chase where James Bond jumps out of a plane to jump onto your plane to hook a noose around the back of it. Well, what was it like filming that scene, I guess?
Oh, we filmed some of that in Key West, Florida. Mm-hmm. And, very safe. They were very, very smart. And, they have a wonderful second unit crew that just went around and did tons of amazing stuff. And then you were brought in for anything dangerous for close-ups. Also, the underwater stuff, I did learn to scuba dive because I did that underwater stuff myself. But that was in a tank in Mexico.
Right, and that was my next question. Is I read that you did your own scuba diving. You had to learn how to scuba dive for that sequence as well.
Yes, I did. Learned in my pool, and then went into the ocean to my deep sea dive, get my certification, and then wound up doing it for the film.
I guess the sequence that I'm really curious about, and I've read a fair number of articles about, is the filming on La Rumorosa Road. At the end of the film. What was all of that like, being on that really treacherous stretch of road and the climax of the film with the tanker turning over and your character being lit on fire? What was all of that like?
It was very, very cautiously done. There was also some kind of superstitious things happening around the area of that, from what I recollect. But it was, you never want to. The hardest part of a film is when you die or when you have to die. No matter what the circumstances, because that's facing the darkness and the finality of life. So irrespective of where it might be, this particular stunt, though, by the Julian brothers, and that explosion was just, massive and amazing. But we were very well protected.
I mean, it's a really, striking scene, and really just, a technical masterpiece. And I think it really is one of the most memorable scenes of the film for me. I'm curious, for you, what is the scene you're most proud of from the film, or maybe your own personal favorite scene that you were involved in the film?
Well, because you're building a character, and the nature of those films have their own, you have to build it over a period of time. It's not, let's say, a drama, so to speak, where you have a real scene where you know what I mean? Where you're, so you're building, there are moments that you're endowing within this film any kind of reality and depth that you can. So it was a building of that character. You know what I mean? There was a continued, each one is like a little jewel where you're finding, where you're weaving this necklace and that performance. So, there's there's quite a few different moments that are recollecting the film, that all build into what they do. Mm-hmm. From what would be yours?
Well, I mean, I really like this. I really like the final chase scene, but I also really like the scene where you guys are in the lab. And Bond is finally kind of, the gist is up, I guess. But I just really enjoy when he is at your kind of palace, your mansion, and you're interacting with him, and he's trying to kind of build this friendship with you and convince your character that he's on his side, and that, he has your best interests in mind, and that he's trying to, let you know that there are people inside of your organization that are turning on you or want you dead. Yeah, I just because that's not something you see in a lot of Bond films. Often the Bond and the Bond villain are so separated from one another, you don't really get to see extended amounts of interaction between the two.
Right. I wanted to, in that one scene, at the Arabesque in Acapulco, we shot that. I wanted to, there was a line that I wanted to put in that I thought Sanchez should say when Bond is trying to set me up in terms of my paranoia. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to basically, when I say, he says, do you suspect anyone? I say, I assure you, everyone in my organization is 100% loyal, and mm-hmm. I wanted to say, I suspect everyone, Mr. Bond. You know what I mean? I wanted to, but they didn't want me to say that. And then I was going to say, but I can assure you, everyone in my organization is 100% loyal. But I wanted to give that, I suspect everyone, Mr. Bond. I wanted to give that line there, just to give a twinkle in Sanchez's eye, because he would be that kind of person. And wasn't able to say that, but when I go over to Heller and he goes, how'd you know that? You know what I mean? When he says to me, you won't believe who that guy is. And I say, he's a blah, 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 blah. He goes, how'd you know that? And I say to him, because I know things. You know what I mean? Right. That was the line I put in, so that gave me that kind of idea.
Well, and I think that's the best quality of your character in the film, is that your character really is one of the few villains that is the equal, or even more so an equal than Bond, and really gives him a run for his money.
Yeah, because that was early on in discussions when we had gone back to Casino Royale, saying that Bond and the villain must be mirror images of each other. And my analogy, of course, was if you put a heavyweight in the ring with a welterweight, the audience will go to sleep. You got to have two heavyweights going at it, so they don't know who's going to get knocked out. You got to at least give them that, and that has to come from even the intelligence of the character. Right. So they absolutely did that in the film, because we already know going in who's going to win. Right. You know what I mean? So you have to then weigh on that's what frustrates me about a lot of films, when they don't give the villain his due. See, they should really, and that's another whole other question of interpretation that I've had over the years with many different folks, filmmakers and stuff, where they make certain characters, they could make them much better.
Well, no, and I completely agree. A good hero is only as really exciting as his villain. And that's what makes License to Kill such a great film, is that the villain is actually, he's the equal of James Bond, and that is not really evident in some of the other Bond films.
No. And then, don't forget also what you're doing in Hollywood too is, actors are very protective of their place. So you have a strong actor, and if you have a strong guy, they really don't want. So they write the characters so there is really no competition. You know what I mean? A lot of times. Where with Bond, with Timothy Dalton, there was none of that. Make the character strong. You know what I mean? Make the character strong. Where a lot of actors would be intimidated by having a strong character opposite. And that's why Timothy's a secure actor. But a lot of guys, you can't say that. Anyway, but that's another story. But I understand that.
Yeah.
You have to, what it forces the writer into is finding a way, while making this character strong as can be, how to now combat this other aspect to it. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. How to make the hero now even stronger.
For you, as a film watcher and an actor, who is your personal favorite James Bond? And do you have a personal favorite film aside from obviously your own?
Well, I love Connery, and I like Robert Shaw from Russia with Love, and of course Goldfinger. You know, and there's so many of them. There's so many of them that are great Bond films, that are fun Bond films. You know, and I like some of Roger Moore's, some of Daniel Craig, some of Pierce's stuff. You know, they all have their quality. So the way to say, I mean, you know, you can't say who's the better Bond.
No,
because you'd have to have the same script and then the same supporting cast and then just change Bond and the same director. And then you could say, where does Bond make a difference? Take one of the scripts, get continuity of Bond, change the Bond, but continuity of everyone else in the script. And then you would have to say, okay, this is the best Bond. You can have a contest like that because it has to be controlled. Otherwise, there's so many other variables.
Yeah, I also feel like Bond is indicative of the action films that are being made at the time.
Oh, absolutely.
My last question to you about License to Kill is, when you saw the final film, what were your thoughts? How did you feel it turned out? What did you think of your performance in the film?
Well, it was all very dreamy and overwhelming and great. You know, it was fun because then I went around the world for 5.5 months, you know, promoting the film all over the world. And it was quite, you know, it's over, you know, again, the Bond film is the most successful series in the history of cinema, series of films. It was an iconic thing that everyone wanted to play this one or that one or this one or that one. And now you have, you know, here I hear you were part of that world. And now you're in London and you're, you know, meeting Prince Charles and Lady Di at the Prince's Trust. And you're going around, you know, so it was quite an experience. You know, I'll sum it up like this in a way. Arnold Schwarzenegger was very, very close to. I did Raw Deal with Arnold. And we were very close and very friendly. And he told me, he said to me, he says, yeah, I can't believe this here. All my mother's talking about is, why don't you do a film like Robert Davi here? Why don't you do a movie like Robert Davi? And because the Bond films are so huge all over the world. So his mom was seeing, I guess, you know, all this promotion on Bond. And it was very funny to have Arnold say that at the time, 1990. Funny.
Well, yeah, you know, being part of Bond and being it's something that lasts forever, you know. It's just one of those, like you said, it's the most successful movie franchise ever. It doesn't go away. But speaking of kind of what you've been up to now, what prompted you to get involved in singing and in the world of music?
Well, I've always wanted. Music was a concurrent thing in high school, 10th grade. I won first place New York State School Music Association solo competition. This is all of New York State's high school, and I went solo competition. So right there and then, and I studied opera. Went to Florence, studied with Tito Gobi, studied with Samuel Margulies, who taught Robert Merrill, a great American baritone, and then Dan Farrell from Juilliard, and the last several years with the great Gary Katona, the greatest voice teacher, I think, living today in Los Angeles. But the need to express through song has been always so very powerful. But when I did my first film with Sinatra, I put that on hold. I also didn't want to, I was a baritone with the heart of a tenor. So that meant that the baritone in the opera plays the bad guy. And I was really a romantic, like I said, and I wanted to do the tenor arias. So I stretched my tessitura a little bit. So I gave a vocal strain to myself. And while I was healing from that, I just focused more on the acting, which I had been doing anyway, concurrently. Because as I say, in an Italian household, there were two figures, the Pope and Sinatra, and not necessarily in that order. And now we have a Pope Francis, you know. But he was a huge effect musically and socially because of his social contributions to me or to the world. And then doing my first film with Sinatra. So in the back of my mind, I had always known there was going to be a moment when I was going to go back to the music. So in 2008, I directed a film called The Dukes with myself and Chaz Palminteri, Peter Bogdanovich, Marian Margulis, Melora Hardin, and Ilya Baskin, Frank D'Amico, and Bruce Weitz. Got rave reviews, won 9 awards, very well received. But I sang one song, a doo-wop song, at the very end, and got the bug back for it, and asked the chairman of Disney Music, Bob Cavallo, who I should study with. He said, without hesitating, Gary Katona. He's the best. And I got in touch with Katona, went to him, and then started to train every single day, sometimes twice a day, and build the voice and the muscle. And started the repertoire of the songs, and then decided to do the American Songbook because I felt the world was collapsing around us. America was collapsing. The divisiveness in our country, the certain values that this country had at a certain time, the assimilation of our immigrant population was no longer happening, because in the 40s and 20s and 30s, or the 30s and 40s, the immigrants learned English through American music. The lyrics was, starting with Bing Crosby or whoever it was, Fred Astaire, and then of course Sinatra now, who was the epitome of and knowing extensively the work he did, bringing the bel canto technique of Italian opera to the popular song. And then I call Sinatra the first method singer, because the group theater changed American acting, and now it transformed into this, what Brando did as an actor, but Sinatra did it to the music. And so anyway, it's a combination of all these things. And then when Sinatra passed on, I felt there was a lack of a voice in the world, in the Great American Songbook, which I say is the Shakespeare of America. It's the amalgam of the American experience. It comes from the struggle of the black jazz and jump blues artists. It comes from the immigrants since the Revolutionary War, the Irish, Scottish, Welsh, Lebanese, American Indian, Swedish, Norwegian, German, Polish, and then a large portion from the sons and daughters of Jewish immigrants. And this amalgam of the American experience translates all over the world. And I've traveled all over the world with the music: Latvia, Sweden, Budapest, Australia, China with the United Nations. I'll be going to Estonia. So you have this huge, important music. And the fraying of American society. In 1957, there was a movie called The Joker is Wild that Frank Sinatra did, where he played Joey Lewis. And there was a song in it called All the Way that won Best Oscar. Well, in 2006, the song that won Best Oscar, was called It's Hard Out There for a Pimp. Now, I like all kinds of music. I'm no prude, but I think in 100 years, somebody will be singing All the Way. But It's Hard Out There for a Pimp will be at the dustbin of history. And so look at how we see our society today. Look at what's happening in our world. Look what's happening. You talk about culture shock. Look what's happening in our world. We've been culture shocked. And because of that, we're seeing this rise in violence. It's not gun control. It's not any of that. It's spiritual control. It's something else. There's the malaise in our country, in our nation, in our youth, in our families, in our faith. It all stems from this lack of cohesiveness that used to be. And there's no leader that's giving us, I think. There's a few guys now that you're hearing, but we've been bamboozled, and even culturally we've been bamboozled. So, without getting too into it, I felt a need that I wanted to sing and bring a message through the music, and how Sinatra and the cohesive message he brought in terms of being an advocate against anti-Semitism and racial bigotry of all kinds, even before it was popular, to frame, and who he was a friend of mine, to frame a bit of what he had done and remind people through my performances a bit of that, and then take it from there and give my own message in the ravioli, so to speak. And also when you think about it, again, there were two singers that if they looked you in the eye and said, I'm going to break your legs, you would believe them. And that would be Sinatra and myself. I don't think Michael Bublé does that. I love him. He's terrific. Or Harry Connick. But you need that. There's a masculinity that Sinatra had and some of those singers had that we've lost in today's society. We have an effeminized society, which is wonderful, civility, but we are losing a certain something is lacking. And anyway, I don't want to get too much into this.
Tell me a little bit about who some of your other musical influences would be, other than, one of the greatest of all time, Sinatra.
Well, as a young boy, I was in my basement at home on Long Island with an old wind-up record player listening to the great Caruso and Beniamino Gigli, the great opera singers. I was very affected by the opera. Franco Corelli, one of the great tenors. Of course, Mario Delmonico. I also liked Dean Martin and Perry Como. I mean, I liked, Johnny Mathis, Sammy Davis. I mean, these wonderful singers of that time period, of that era, that were my parents' era. And I heard probably in utero those sounds that carried me in the 60s, you know what I mean? But I love the Rolling Stones. I mean, I like all kinds of music, eclectic, but I listened vehemently and passionately to symphonies, symphonic music. Debussy, into, Shostakovich, Aaron Copland. I love the depth of Tchaikovsky and Mozart and piano. So there was musical influences are all over the place, from Louis Armstrong to Billie Holiday, and as Sinatra had all those huge influences, as anyone does, as any artist does, grab their influences and they amalgamize, they assimilate, they synthesize their own psyche into who they are because of the greatness of people that have come before or during that are affecting and groundbreaking.
And, is that important to you to continue that legacy that Sinatra and some of the other singers that you've mentioned laid down? Is that important to you to continue that legacy of, a really broad, affecting use of your voice and the music that has already been written, to kind of bring that back? Is that important to you to bring that back?
Yes. I don't want people to forget that here's what his voice, you have a certain kind of style that's been adapted in the Broadway theater that's great and fun and entertaining, but it's different. And even in popular music, you know what I mean? There is there's the auto-tune generation, and it's very pretty and affecting. And of course, it's with the times. But this music has gone into the classical realm, and I'm a classicist, a romantic classicist. And I think that's where it, for me, yeah. And it's the experience that the audiences want, because a tremendous amount of young people come to the performances. When I go to China or Latvia and you're selling out and people are hungering, or Australia, and, Italy, I mean, you see the response no matter where you're going. You know what I mean? Niagara Falls. I'll be at Foxwoods Casino December 12th on Sinatra's 100th birthday. In Vegas or wherever I played, there is Gustav Mahler said music is the closest to the absolute. So the American songbook, as I say, the Shakespeare of American music, combines the wonderful orchestration and arrangements with the jazz and swing and a unique American sound. And I want it's important for our youth. Quincy Jones is a huge advocate. It should be taught in schools, high schools, elementary schools. This music should be taught in our schools. This is what it should be taught in our schools. And it's not enough, but it should be made, so I think it's important for our culture.
How does being a musical performing artist compare to being part of film and the film world?
Well, the connection to the audience, the immediacy. And again, I say music is the closest to the absolute, as Gustav Mahler said. So when you're channeling that music through you to another person, to an audience, the collective soul of an audience, from yours, from the other musicians, when you're the mediator of a message and your emotional life, and you're opening up those emotional lives in the other people, that immediacy, there's nothing more gratifying. And also you've traveled somewhere in your soul, in your journey in life, and to be able to sing and express that journey as Sinatra did, that's the affecting aspect. So for me, it's tremendously important and gratifying, and the essence of what I need to do. And while I film, you're contained by the character and the other elements around that. And it has its own satisfaction and fun, and of course. But you don't very often get to play the music you want to play. In here, I can play the music I want to play.
And you mentioned performing in Las Vegas, and you headlined at the Venetian.
Yes, and then I did a show with Don Rickles, 2 shows with him in Vegas.
What was that like?
Well, a big thrill. Of course, like I said, you've been in a Bond film and Die Hard and movies and Goonies and this and that and TV shows and press all over the place. But to drive down the 15 and see a billboard of you headlining in Vegas, and then driving through the Strip and on the Venetian, which used to be the Sands, having these 50-foot banners of yourself and the neon light, that was like, okay, I like this. You know what I mean? That was kind of, Ocean's 11, here I am, Do
you feel like that connected you with Sinatra even more than you already are connected with Sinatra?
Well, I wasn't thinking of it in terms of that, but because the connection of it, I remember growing up in that era, Vegas and the singers and that whole lifestyle, you know what I mean? The Rat Pack. And there's a lot of pretend guys, you know, the Rat Pack, the new Rat Pack, the new this, the new that. Come on, let's be honest. None of them could hold a fucking towel to those guys. You know what I mean? There was just one group of guys that Humphrey Bogart and Sinatra and those cats all started. You know what I mean? So that's like, that ain't gonna happen again, you know? But yet everybody, you know, so it's lovely. But so, you know, look, you make your own way in life, and that's what it is. You know what I mean? You're making your own way. Sinatra was affected by Bing Crosby. He wore a hat and corncob pipe for Bing Crosby. So, you know, and then he moved on and did his thing. So that's kind of, you know, you're your own person. And but it did give me that thrill of a dream that I had.
Of the songs that you've performed, which one do you enjoy performing the most?
That's a difficult thing to say. I'm singing them because I love them all. There's no favorite. They're just wonderful. You know what I mean? They're just wonderful. Yeah. They're all just beautiful gems. They're jewels.
Is there anything you're working on now that you'd like to talk about?
Just the music, and, you know, I've got a film with Luke Goss called Your Move that'll be out next year, and a documentary that they're doing on me that'll be out next year. Kind of a fun documentary about the music and the whole 9 yards of stuff. So that's, you know, there's a few other projects, a script I wrote that I'm hoping to get done, and, you know, things pop up like that. I'll be going to Estonia for singing in Europe and, you know, continue on more of the stuff. Living life. I just want people to go there and get that music and listen to it and download it and enjoy it.
And where can people find your music?
Well, on Amazon and iTunes, Davi Sings Sinatra on the Road to Romance, or Amazon and iTunes, Robert Davi 12/12/2015, or Robert Davi Pennies from Heaven, or the DaviSingsSinatra.com. They can come to the Foxwoods Casino, see me live, or go to Davi Sings Sinatra, find out where I'm going to be when I put the schedules up. Anyway, and Robert John Davi, my Twitter, Robert Davi Instagram.
And again, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to sit down and talk with me. This has been fantastic.
Hey, thank you, Chris. Thank you for your time, buddy.
So big thanks to Robert Davi for sitting down and talking with me about License to Kill. It was a lot of fun. Let's talk about the villain's motivation in this film, because this is something we've talked about in the other films and that we've watched this month. And I think this one really is the easiest to follow, even if it is a little ridiculous. Sanchez is selling a cocaine that can dissolve in petrol, that then on the other end, the cocaine can be taken out of the petrol, and that's how he's transporting it. And then there's also something about Stinger missiles that he's threatening to shoot down a plane with.
Yeah, that was...
Yeah.
Which I didn't really understand what was going on. What did you guys kind of feel about the villain's motivations in this film?
Well, what I like is that they were, again, mostly grounded. I mean, there's a bit of that ridiculous Bond touch to it, but at the same time, I felt like real issue being amplified. You know, this guy just wants to sell. This guy wants to do what he thinks is his job, which is to sell drugs. And you know, it's almost felt like secondary to Bond catching him. Like, it wasn't really that big. Like, you don't really care about seeing Bond stop that scheme in particular, but instead stopping him in general, because he's he's so scary, and the way he kills people, you just hate him and you want to see him get caught. Yeah, more so because of who he is instead of what he's doing, instead of his scheme, sort of.
I really liked that. I don't know, when I liked the idea of transporting cocaine in weird ways, because I just finished watching Narcos, and I thought that was an interesting, realistic touch, because honestly, they did some insane, they were able to transport cocaine in the most bizarre ways, and like fiberglass that could be broken down later. And I thought that was kind of a little reality that they threw in there. I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that was cool. I thought the Stinger missiles was, like you said, a sort of a little throw in to remind us that this is a Bond movie, that he has to save the world. But I agreed. It was, to me, what made it so unique and so compelling was that Bond had a personal vendetta against this guy, regardless of what he did and what he did. And also, I mean, through his behavior, he's just like the scariest, most murderous, pretty brutal bad guy. Kind of adds to the fact that it just what he just is a bad guy, you know? And I think that was enough for me.
Yeah.
I almost could have done without a lot of the extraneous stuff. I mean, they had to have the thing with the Stinger missiles in there to give Carrie Lowell as Pam Bouvier to get involved.
Exactly.
Because that's how it was a threat to the United States, an overt, immediate threat. But I mean, I honestly think if it had just been Bond going to kill Franz Sanchez because he was a dick and he killed his friend, I think that might have been a better just motivation altogether for his character.
I agree. Yeah. I guess the Stinger missiles are the reason why M brought him back on board. Just another.
Yeah, it just, to me, that was just kind of like the little thing that stuck out for me for this movie.
Yeah,
is that all of the realism aside, the villain's kind of motivation got a little muddy towards the end.
Yeah.
So we've talked about some of the set pieces, the big set pieces in the film. And I think the one that really sticks out and is one of the best in the franchise is the final set piece where Bond is chasing after Sanchez, who is in one of the tankers that has the cocaine petrol mixture in him. And Bond is in a plane and he lands on top of the tanker to try to destroy the tankers and get to Sanchez. What did you guys think of that whole just kind of insane over-the-top sequence?
It was amazing. It was really cool. Again, so over the top. At the same time, you don't stop like believing it. Like honestly, I almost found it more like easier to buy than the opening. And it's just you get a real sense of danger, and you get the stakes are perfect at that point in the film. And on top of that, it has like a great villain death, to top it all off.
Yeah.
It's it's just also really well shot. Like you don't lose track of the action like ever.
It was satisfying. It was definitely a satisfying movie ending for a movie that built up such an intense it definitely made sense. It sort of reminded me of like a modern action film in that it has a really big satisfying ending to a really rough, rugged journey. I really liked it. I thought you got to kill him with an explosion, but this time we got to see him catch on fire first. So
well, and the thing about the end of the film and where it is filmed, apparently a lot of that was really dangerous. Obviously, it was really dangerous.
You can tell.
Yeah, right. But some of the actors were in actual physical danger filming some of those scenes on that highway. And for the life of me, that stretch of road, the name of it eludes me, but it's like a very well-known stretch of road. I want to say in Mexico, where this filming took place. But it was, from everything I've read and what Robert Davi talks about, it was really dangerous.
Yeah, like the overall stunt work is what made it dangerous, or what else?
I would love to see how they did some of that stuff. I mean, most of the stunts in all these movies that we've seen, I'm really fascinated by how they got them, how they accomplished them. But like, and I know that I think I was reading on Wikipedia that they intended to shoot elsewhere, but then they kind of had to settle for Florida and Mexico.
Well, it was filmed on the La Rumarosa Road, which apparently a lot of fatal accidents had already happened on that road prior to them filming there. And apparently Dalton was almost killed by a tanker because of how tall he was. It's really, it adds to the quality of that final climactic scene, knowing that, this was all done for real. It's almost, we talked about Mad Max at the beginning of this Kulturecast, but that's kind of what this reminds me of a little bit, with like the big car stunts and the big stuff with the, explosions and car sets. And this is all done for real, not digital.
Right. It's
really nice to see for real stuff done as opposed to stuff like Fast and Furious where it's got, cars flying out of, planes and stuff. This helps ground the film in reality, I feel.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I agree too.
Yeah. And then, you never see Bond have sex with anyone in this film.
That's
I don't know if you guys noticed that or not.
That's a good point. Yeah, it is all about that. It's about something deeper for Bond this time, and I like that. I really like that.
Do you know why he did not have sex with anyone?
Is there like an actor logistic reason?
No. The reason was it was the late 80s during the HIV scare.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, which was like denied when the film came out. But that was like the AIDS epidemic. So they didn't want Bond to seem promiscuous.
Wow.
Right?
It's amazing.
I mean, that's just the movie reflecting the times.
Absolutely. And the thing is that's what I've started to really enjoy about these movies. And especially in the Bond, the actor playing Bond too. It's like it's such a reflection of the time.
Yeah. It really is. And that's, I think that's one of the things that's allowed Bond to stay relevant in the last 30, 40 years,
absolutely,
really.
Definitely.
So, well, Oscar and Sean, starting with you, Oscar, skip it or watch it, and best performance.
I'd say watch it. Best performance, Robert Davi, definitely.
That's a good one.
I get the distinct feeling that there might be 3 Robert Davi picks, but we'll see. Sean, what about you?
I say definitely watch it. I really, like I said, I've been looking forward to Timothy Dalton, and it's definitely different, and I liked it a lot. It's especially this one. I'm excited. The darkness of it is attractive to me. Which is why I would love to say Robert Davi, but I also really liked. I really liked Q because he was that sort of. He made it feel grounded in that 007 world for me. So I like Desmond. I'll give it to Desmond out of pure just love.
And it really is one of the first and almost only times you get to see him really interact with Bond outside of just the lab.
Yeah, he's out in the field. It's kind of cool. This old guy, I love it.
I mean, obviously, for me, this is a watch. Again, this is probably top 3 Bond films for me. And best performance, you've already picked Robert Davi, Oscar, so I'm going to have to go with Carrie Lowell as Pam Bouvier. She's great. I mean, she really is great as a Bond girl, and she does kind of hold her own against Bond. But that being said, special shout out to Wayne Newton as Professor Joe Butcher, which I understand why he's in the movie, like from a plot standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
It's like really weird. And Benicio del Toro as well. He only has 3 lines?
Yeah.
That I can think of. I guess he might have some lines in that bar, but I never really remember because I always just focus on the fact that there's a guy who picks up like a marlin off the wall and tries to stab you.
That's right.
Oh, geez. What do you guys think this film's score is on Rotten Tomatoes?
I'm gonna think it's in the sort of 68% maybe.
Yeah, I think this one's got to be. I think it's got to be good. I'm gonna go up to 77.
Well, I would like to point out that this is the first time that this has happened. Sean, you hit the nail on the head. 77%.
Oh my god! And y'all should
100% correct.
I'm terrible at that. So that's a big deal.
It is certified fresh, 77%. The critics' consensus for the film is License to Kill is darker than many of the other Bond entries, with Timothy Dalton playing the character with intensity, but it still has some solid chases and fight scenes. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
What do you guys think the audience score is?
I think 70-something%.
Yeah, I feel like it's got to be. If the critics, I feel like it's gonna be high. So I'm gonna say 80.
The critic score is actually 60%.
Oh, dang.
It's lower. People always regard Timothy Dalton's time as Bond with, I don't know, they don't seem to like it very much.
I like him. I'm just, I don't know.
I feel like it's because we only got to see him in 2 films, so people are kind of like, oh, that's weird.
And he was a very different Bond, which I liked about it, and I could have seen more of that, so I get that. I can understand that.
Yeah. Well, before I talk about the last 2 culture casts of Bond January, Oscar, is there anything you would like to plug?
Well, again, probably that movie I told you about earlier, Enter Nowhere. Just check it out; it's pretty cool, and you can find it for cheap at Amazon. It's DVD's $5 or something right now.
What about you, Sean?
I actually have some good news coming up soon. which I'm excited about, but I'll post it on my social media. So as always, you can follow me on Facebook, Sean Liang, and on Twitter, Seanifer.
Look at that redirect.
Yeah, see?
You want to know about it, you got to go to my Twitter.
That's right. Well, also because
there
I can't say it right now, but
That's
I will.
Pro-level redirect. You can follow me on Twitter at Culture Stash. We got a bunch of other Culture Casts if you want to check those out over at cultureshock.com, along with written movie reviews, video game reviews, and a little bit of wrestling. You can check out Oscar's movie reviews. They're always really well done. Oscar's one of my favorite writers. I'll be forward and say it. This coming Monday, we're going to be talking about GoldenEye from 1995. It is the first Pierce Brosnan James Bond film.
Woo-woo.
And as Oscar put it, it is the best one. So we picked the best for the only one. And then on Thursday, we're going to be joined by Mike White of the Projection Booth podcast to talk Casino Royale and Quantum of Solace back to back, because that's the only way to really make Quantum of Solace tolerable.
I haven't seen that.
Big thanks to you, Oscar, for joining us today to talk about License to Kill.
Thanks for having me.
It's always a pleasure, and make sure to check out next week's Kulturecast.